Top five, top five, top five.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the #1 sports ranking show on YouTube. Here at the Countdown, where we're ranking the top 5 free agents in the NBA free agency this offseason.
Yeah, we're starting to get deep into the NBA offseason, and free agency is clearly one of the highlights right after the draft. So we're excited to give you 5 players that could be at the very forefront of free agency.
100%. These are the guys that could change teams this offseason, could go to a new team, could re-sign with their old team, but either way, it's going to have a huge impact on how the rest of this offseason plays out.
Free agency is a big time of the year, impacts multiple teams, impacts the league as a whole. So it's exciting to see where chips fall and what teams decide to do with their restricted and current free agents. So with that said, make sure you smash that like button and hit that subscribe, because we're going to be back every single week with some fire-ass content.
Absolutely. And before we get into the countdown, go check out Fan Gear Nation for some great jerseys.
Not only do they got jerseys, but they got canvases for the wall, shirts, sweatshirts, and all of this for the low. But don't worry, we still got y'all with a discount code.
That's right. This is PSO's official merchandise partner, so you can use code PSO15 for 15% off your first order. So go type in fangearnation.com while those low prices are still available. Support your favorite squad and save a good amount of money while doing it.
And now, back to the countdown.
So getting into the countdown, starting out with number 5, we got Kyle Kuzma, Brandon. Crazy how a year ago, I don't think anyone could have foreseen Kyle Kuzma being on this list, but that's exactly what has taken place with him elevating his game to the next level, becoming a 20-point-per-game scorer, and really proving that he can be a reliable number 2 or number 3 option on a playoff or championship caliber team. And with DC possibly into rebuilding mode, he could be at the forefront for teams looking to add a proven scorer to their team this offseason.
Yeah, Kyle Kuzma's always had the talent. I know when he first came in the league, late first-round pick, he started off with the boom for the Lakers. Averaged about 17 points his first year, about 18, 19 points his second year. Right. And then obviously AD came over, LeBron was there, and his role continued to be, he got his ring, and LeBron continued to be LeBron. So when you got AD and LeBron in front of you, it's hard for a player of Kyle Kuzma's stature to really blossom and take off. Right. Next thing you know, he gets shipped to DC in that Russell Westbrook trade. And we're talking about a guy that's 6'9", has become a versatile defender, has become a way better defender than he was in LA, can hit a lot of shots, a lot of creative shots. The main thing about Kyle Kuzma is his efficiency. He takes a lot of wild threes, takes a lot of selfish, a lot of wild shots. If he can get on a team that has some veterans that can keep him even-keeled but still allow him to blossom and take some of that commanding offense that he wants to be a part of, I think he could be in a really good situation. But at the end of the day, 28 years old, about 6'9", has the length, has the defensive potential, has the ability to hit a lot of shots, has actually hit a lot of clutch shots for the Wizards over the last 2 years. So Kyle Kuzma does deserve to be on this list, especially when you think about Khris Middleton being in that 32, 33 year range, and Kyle Kuzma is about 28 and has never really had any true injuries in his career.
Yeah, exactly. We saw Kyle Kuzma take his game to another level this past season. We'll see if he can do it maybe on a new team this next season. And at number 4, we got Fred VanVleet, who kind of did the same thing when he won that championship with Toronto, Brandon.
Yeah, Fred VanVleet's one of the smallest players in the league, but he's still actually one of the best defensive players in this league. Yeah. No, he's never first-team all-defense. He's never even third-team all-defense. And a lot of that's because of his stature, but he's always near the top of the league in deflections, steals, just being a heady basketball player. And he's one of those intangible guys that anybody in the league, any front office, any coaching staff in the league would love to have him, not only for his leadership, but also just his camaraderie and just being a true point guard on his team. Now, when you look at Fred VanVleet, you're going to look at some of his efficiency numbers and you're like, dang, this dude's not even shooting 40% from the field. But he is still shooting a high clip from 3, and he's still, like I said, the intangibles that he has. It's also important for Fred VanVleet to be in the right situation. I do think Toronto is a good situation for him. Got a lot of long wings, got a lot of still good and blossoming players around him. I think Philadelphia could be in a great situation for him as well, but it's really about the fit for Fred VanVleet, because you know what you're going to get out of him every single night.
Yeah, he was the guy coming into the league who was known for his defense, despite being small, and was a pesky defender. And then it was that kind of championship or playoff run with Toronto in 2019. Obviously, Kawhi is going to get a lot of credit for that, and he deserves it. He was the best player on the team, no doubt. But if you think they win that championship without Fred VanVleet, then you were not watching that playoff series, especially the finals and the Eastern Conference Finals, where he really took his game to the next level, had his son, and just became this father, had the dad power on his side, and, you know, was knocking down shots left and right, having the clutch factor, hitting those big-time shots, and then it carried over year after year, and now it's just expected for him to be that 20-point-per-game scorer, to facilitate an offense, to get those 6-7 assists that he's capable of doing and helping his teammates be better. And so he's clearly been proven to be a winning player, and so it'll be interesting to see what kind of team is able to get him, because he could be the #1 point guard available if Kyrie does resign.
Yeah, small stature, big-time player, plays his role as good as anybody in the league does. So Fred VanVleet could be a steal for any team.
Absolutely. So moving on to number 3, though, we got James Harden, a former MVP, a lot of All-Stars, a future first ballot Hall of Famer. But he's not #1 because what he has done in the regular season has been excellent. Yeah. But what he's done in the postseason just hasn't reached that same caliber of play. And it's hasn't happened 1 time or 2 times or 3 times. It's been almost every single postseason. He seems to not be at that superstar level of player. And so it's hard to rely on someone like that when you're paying him superstar caliber money. But then when you get to the games that matter most, he's not there to show up. And while he did have 2 of his best performances or moments in the playoffs this past postseason with Philadelphia, you know, specifically in game 1, putting the team on his back when Joel Embiid was not able to play, it just showed that, you know, he is capable of doing that. But then game 5, game 6, game 7 was back to his old self, and it's just hard to, you know, give the super max to a player that, you know, consistently disappoints in the postseason.
Yeah, Rob, I think there's no question when James Harden is at his peak, like Houston Rockets, James Harden peak, he's obviously not only one of the best scorers in the league, but one of the best all-around players in the league. Yeah, his defense will never be what a lot of us want it to be, but he still led the league in assists last year, and he still has the ability to score 25, 27, 28 points on any given night. And yeah, James Harden plays at this great, amazing level, like you said, Rob, throughout every single season, but unfortunately, as the playoffs go, he starts to continue on that downward trajectory to the point where he just becomes irrelevant, and teams just don't even really care about James Harden as much as they should, especially since he's a Hall of Fame player. And last year, we got to remember that James Harden got shipped from Brooklyn to Philly. And while he was in Brooklyn, was butting heads with Steve Nash, Hall of Fame player. We'll see how good of a coach he really is, but butted heads with him, and then obviously butted heads with Doc Rivers, who is going to be a Hall of Fame coach one day. So, I mean, James Harden has butted heads with 2 coaches throughout the same season, and it just makes you wonder if he's better off being in a situation like Houston once again, where he just has free reign to take as many shots as he wants and do whatever he wants. At the end of the day, James Harden is not a championship caliber player because he's not going to be at his best unless he's taking a bunch of shots, unless he has that ultimate confidence. He can't play the second fiddle, and this year kind of proved it. Once, like you said, Joel Embiid went down, 52 points, goes crazy. Joel Embiid's there, he's the second fiddle. He's just being not as aggressive and not making the plays that you expect James Harden to make like he did when he was in Houston.
Yeah, so Harden will have his work cut out for him. We'll see if he goes to a contender again like Philly or back to Houston, where he's probably not going to contend, but will be in that #1 role. So moving on to number 2, though, we got Kristaps Porzingis, Brandon.
Kristaps Porzingis had one of the most underrated seasons in the NBA last year. And there's never been a question about Kristaps' talent. I mean, he's 7'3" and he can shoot. Unicorn at the end of the day. I mean, he shot about 39% from 3 last year, nearly shot 50% from the field. I mean, he's doing it all as a 7'3" player in the league. And at the end of the day, he's still one of the best rim protectors, as he should at 7'3". I mean, you see 1.5 blocks per game. That might not be at the top of the league. When you look at the advanced statistics, the defensive efficiency, he's one of the best rim protectors at the league. People cannot score on him at the league. I remember Anthony Edwards said something. He was like, oh, everybody's worried about Gobert. This is before they got Gobert. But he was like, I think Kristaps is the hardest player to score on at the rim.
When he was in Dallas.
Exactly. So if Kristaps can stay healthy and can continue to have seasons like he did this past year for Washington, I mean, it's no question that he's the second best free agent in this draft, or the second best free agent in this class. Kristaps is still only 28. It feels like he's been in the league for quite a while. If he can stay upright and play at least 60 games, I mean, he could be obviously one of the best players in the NBA, honestly.
Yeah, you look at what he does on the defensive end, blocking all those shots, being that great rim protector. Then you look at what he does on the offensive end, shooting those threes, spacing the floor. That's a great fit on almost every single team in the league. The only thing with him is just going to be those injury concerns, which we've seen be a problem for him in the past, specifically in New York and then even in Dallas as well. And just going to Washington, he proved he can stay healthy. And so having that kind of platform year where he was able to play the majority of the season, prove he can be durable, prove he can play, those back-to-back, those 3 games out of 5 days kind of thing, that was big. And if he can continue that, then, he could honestly sign the biggest contract this offseason, because the only guy above him has some other concerns we'll get into. So getting into number 1, of course, we got Kyrie Irving. A lot of things to go over with Kyrie, a lot of factors that GMs are going to be considering when they make the decision of whether they want to offer Kyrie Irving the kind of extension or the kind of contract that he's looking for. And it just kind of comes down to 2 different things. One, what he does on the floor, which is very special, and then one, what he does off the floor. So getting into the off the floor, just a lot of controversies, a lot of unreliability, a lot of, question marks that teams are going to have to be comfortable with before they make that kind of investment. But let's not forget what he does on the court. Most skilled player I think we've ever seen. And I don't even think that's a controversy or argumentative. Like, he has the best handles that we've ever seen touch the basketball court. He can finish with the best of them at the rim. He's a great shooter, an all-around offensive force that hit one of, if not the biggest shot in NBA history, has the clutch factor. He has a lot of value on the court. It's just going to kind of come down to what team is able to, think that it's going to be enough to withstand the off-court problems that come with Kyrie.
Yeah, no question about Kyrie's talent. I mean, I don't think there's 3 players in the league that you might want taking one of the final shots above Kyrie Irving at the end of a game. And at the end of the day, like you said, it is his off-court. The thing about Kyrie is I'm not really worried about what Kyrie might say and might not say. It's his dedication to basketball. Like, something can come up and Kyrie will happily just take a month off and do whatever he has to do and then come back and play basketball. And that's why his list of free agent suitors might be more narrow than most people think. It's not about his talent. It's not about his skill level. It's obviously about the off-field issues. And unfortunately for Kyrie, some of the things that he's done has really not been a massive idea, but we're not going to dive way too into that, because at the end of the day, we're here to talk about basketball, and Kyrie Irving is one of the best basketball players of all time. Well, Kyrie Irving is one of the best offensive players of all time.
Right.
Definitely has one of the best handles of all time, if not the best handle. Hit one of the best shots of all time, has won a ring, has accomplished a lot throughout his career, and he has played for a numerous amount of teams, which is part of the reason why you have to be a little cautious about Kyrie. But he's 100% worth the price tag and 100% worth the admission at the end of the day.
Yeah, that was the only other point I was going to touch on, is just the fact that he's been on these other teams in the past with the Celtics and the Nets and the Mavericks, all kind of going downhill after he arrived. And obviously that's not going to help his case in free agency. You'd rather his teams win championships like they did in Cleveland and him elevating too. And so we know he's capable of doing that. But it's clearly going to have to be as a second fiddle for a team behind someone like Luka Doncic, which is why re-signing in Dallas could be, a very likely possibility. Going to LA to reunite with LeBron is something that's on the table. Maybe he goes somewhere else, but if he's in the right position, he can bring a lot of value to a team, be a box office hits, bring a lot of fans to the arena, and showcase his artistry.
Yeah, contrary to popular opinion, Kyrie Irving is a very unselfish basketball player. He played the second fiddle with Dallas really well last year and really accepted his role. So I think that should be a sight for other teams to look at. And he'll probably, in my opinion, remain in Dallas. But we'll see where Kyrie ends up. He's the number 1 player on this list for a reason. And I think he's going to ball out this year.
Yeah, just probably would have helped if they won a little more games and didn't go from 4th place to missing the playoffs. But that is why he is number 1, because of what he does bring on the court from a scoring, overall offensive standpoint. And all these players on this list are going to be highly sought out this offseason, could change teams, could change the entire landscape of the league if multiple of them go to the same team or something like that. So feel free to leave your list in the comments section of who you think is the top 5 free agents. And if you're a fan of one of these teams, it's going to be exciting to watch.
List of game changers. We'll catch y'all next week. Peace.
Absolutely. See you next time.